Good morning and welcome to the North Slope Borough Community Health Hour. My name is Olivia Kim, health educator for the Prevention Unit. This show is brought to you by the North Slope Borough Health Department. This week, we talk about bullying and bullying prevention with Cheryl Humme. Cheryl has been a counselor at Arctic Women in Crisis on and off since 2008. Over the years, she has traveled extensively across the slope and spent time in each of our schools talking about bullying and healthy relationships. So today I am here with Cheryl Humme, and we're going to be talking about bullying and bullying prevention. Cheryl, can you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Sure. My name is Cheryl Humme, as you just said. I worked at AWIC, for about 6 years, but really I came up to Borough, well, it was Borough back then, in 2008, and I was working at AWIC till 2012. And then my sister got sick, and I went back to the East Coast to take care of her. And then I came back in 2014. And was child care program coordinator. Then I worked for TNHA, and then back in 23, I finally came back to AWIC, which I really feel is like where I didn't want to leave in the first place. Let's put it that way. I didn't. So I've had about 6 years at AWIC now, from then and now.
Okay, so it sounds like you've had a lot of experience up here in Barrow and like doing a bunch of different things. So thank you for being with us today.
You're welcome.
So as I said, we're going to be talking about bullying. I'd like to start off by asking you, what is your definition of bullying?
Well, bullying is intentional behavior that hurts someone else. And another part of it is that it's repeated. Kids all the time will say, teacher, whatever, they bullied me, like they pushed me. That's bullying. Well, one time, a one-time thing is not a bullying event. It could be, I think when we think of high school and possibly a whole lot of kids or junior high, like are circled around two kids and one, like they're fighting or something, like that is just one event that is so big and so severe. You could call that bullying, especially if it's from a set of behaviors, like a pattern that's been going on for a while, even if it's only that one fight or, that kind of thing, or really a humiliating experience like that, only one, that could be, you could say that's only a one-time event, but something that severe could be seen as bullying, especially if there has been littler stuff, like again, a pattern going along. So it's any activity, really, any behavior that you're doing on purpose, intentionally to hurt someone else, and you're doing it again and again and again. That's what bullying is.
So it's like the key thing here is that it's kind of long and sustained, and it happens more than once. And there's, as you said, it could be like small things that build up to something big, or it could be maybe like a few large events that happen.
That's right. It's usually more than a one-time event. That's the main thing to think of. Yeah. And that it is intentional. Now, that doesn't mean that the kid who's doing the bullying is going to say, I was just teasing or so, because they don't want to get in trouble either, right? But it is a purposeful event that happens repeatedly.
Yeah, because I know that, especially when you're like growing up as a kid, right? There is definitely moments where, you kind of get into it with your classmates, whether it's like little teasing or little kind of like nagging here and there. And I guess, just like trying to draw the line between what is that, like what is like playful versus what is harmful.
Exactly. And I think to make things more difficult, we do have a lot of kind of play fighting or teasing in what we consider we do with friends. You know what I mean? But I know that, I've been hurt by what a friend says in the past. You know what I mean? So like, we're never sure when it's going to cross the line. You know what I mean? Like we may think we're just teasing and we're all good, you know what I mean? But like how you're going to take it or how I'm going to take it, is we don't know that. So, again, a one-time event, hopefully if you're good friends with someone, you can hopefully talk to them about like, hey, that wasn't good. Like we can't joke about that anymore, but also in the hallway, you'll have lots of really good friends who are like pushing each other in the hallway and stuff like that. So again, the kid who's bullying someone and is purposely pushing the kid in the hallway, he's going to say, look, we're all doing it. You know what I mean? So it's not always obvious or easy to tell when bullying is happening. I think partly because we have so much of that in our play and in our, the way we interact with friends. But it is, for the kid who's getting bullied, it is horrible. And there's nothing fun or easy or playful about it for that kid. That's for sure.
That's very true. So what are different types of bullying and how do they manifest?
Yeah. Well, there's physical bullying. I think that's the thing that we think of most often, probably, the pushing, or you see like I don't know, this must happen really in schools. I don't think it ever happened in my high school. I don't know if it happens here, but on television or in movies, you see like some popular kid like knock all the books out of someone's hands, you know what I mean? Like, or shove a kid in a locker, or, fortunately I never saw that, or, I mean, I don't think that happened in my high school, but, I mean, I don't know exactly. But physical, I think physical isn't hard to figure out when we do those physical kinds of pushing, shoving, beating up, knocking, tripping someone, that kind of thing. Then there's emotional, which is the teasing, the making fun of, calling names. But I think, there's a lot of adults who say, oh, that's normal part of life, and you know what I mean, and get a tough skin and all that, But really, when we think of that emotional bullying, the notion is that you're really taking something that is important or precious to you. Or let's say me, like I'm the kid who's getting bullied, right? Mm-hmm. So like the thing that I like most about myself is my curly hair. That's not even so much a lie, but you know what I mean? Like I love my curly hair. But if I was all of a sudden being made fun of that I'm the one kid who has curly hair, then I'm gonna like, oh, maybe I want to straighten my hair. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like it's the thing that I find important or good in my life. When someone starts to humiliate me because of that, I mean, just think of the emotional abuse that really is. Like that's not just teasing. That's not just anything. You're really destroying how someone feels about themselves.
Yeah, it's like attacking a sense of identity.
Yeah.
Yeah, like who you
definitely.
are, what you find
and what
important.
if you're the only kid in the chess club, or you're the only kid who likes, robotics or whatever, you know what I mean? Like you're seeing that interest in the one thing that this kid feels important or feels joy in their life, and now they're made fun of it because of it. I just cannot. I refuse to minimize the idea that emotional abuse is less than somehow than the physical bullying or physical abuse.
I heard or read something once, and I don't know if this is true, but I read something once that like the body doesn't always remember physical pain, but it always remembers emotional pain.
Yeah.
And so that the scars of emotional pain can be very, very long lasting, and that our brain is very good at remembering and reliving those moments even after they've passed.
Yeah. I mean, really, talking about our brains, we remember bad things way more than we remember good things. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think we're so sure that we remember good things because like we remember that great day at the beach, or that great day that, our family was all like joking around, or, watching a movie together or whatever. Like we think of those things, but really when we're not in a good place, it is just all the bad things that have happened to us in our life that we just replay over and over and over again. Yeah. So yeah, our brain remembers the bad things way more than we remember the good things. So yeah. And then there's the online bullying, which, when I was in high school, I would say I'm that old, that wasn't a thing. Yeah. I mean, by the time I was in college, it was a thing. And now I'm addicted to this phone over here, definitely. So, online, I mean, it's anything. It could be emailing. It's really doing everything, the calling names, the humiliating someone, instead of doing it in person, it's doing it online. Yeah. It's maybe if you're, sometimes a friend group may like try to include or act like they're going to include someone to gain some trust. And then again, they use that information, whether it be something online or, again, in their real life, like to humiliate them in that way. So it could be pictures, it could be anything, maybe someone's going to look at your activity on something online and copy it and then paste it to all the friends or everyone in school or something like that. There's, just any platform you can think online, any way people can use to bully kids there. And what is also so dangerous there is that it is so easy to create a new profile. You can create a new profile on Facebook. I'm on any of the, I'm any of the various platforms. And then you don't even know who's doing it. Or you can easily, I think truly, my guess is if the police become involved, and I think when we're talking about online bullying, we have to realize that it is possible at some point in time for the police to be involved. Yeah. They can find, in looking at data or who, like they can often figure out who wrote something, even if it's by a different name. So, I think people should be aware of that and be conscious of that it's not always going to be hidden. If depending on how far you go with this bullying online. But the online stuff is that they can be in a room by themselves, like all night long. They're getting all kinds of harassment from, that's just on their phone in their own room, all by themselves. And parents think it's fine. You know what I mean? Like they're just playing in their room or whatever, Yeah, the online stuff is bad.
Yeah,
it's really
I feel like
bad.
It feels like there's a manipulative aspect about it, right?
Yeah.
There's a manipulative aspect about it. And as you said, like that's something that can follow you home.
Yeah.
And you never know, like it's really hard to tell like what's happening on someone's phone, right?
Yeah.
Unless they tell you, unless they show you.
Exactly.
Or like if you're a parent that has more oversight, I guess, over your child's phone.
Right.
But I think oftentimes that can get so lost.
Yeah.
And so another question that I have then are, what are some signs that someone is getting bullied? And let's say, for example, right, like someone is getting bullied and harassed on their phone, like what are some signs that parents or loved ones can look out for?
Yeah, well, I think when we're talking about signs of kids who are getting bullied, I think the getting quiet, spending more time by themselves, maybe they're not hanging out with friends anymore, they like the shrinking into themselves, you know what I mean? Hopefully if parents, parents are just all the kids who around you in school, grown up. So some parents are really healthy, some parents are not so healthy. Some parents are really with it or know how to talk to people, and other parents are just as afraid of talking to you as maybe you are to talk to someone else. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So hopefully parents are, paying attention to their children and can see a difference that might be happening in them. But a lot of kids don't want to admit that they're the ones who are getting bullied, especially if their parents, think the world of them. You know what I mean? Like they don't want to admit that, so it can be really hard. But I hope that you're paying attention because a child is just shrinking into themselves if they're getting bullied. That's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there are definitely feelings of shame, right?
Yeah.
That maybe come with being bullied, shame, or as you said, like not wanting to admit that you're the one who's going through something. But I think it's important to talk about it because, I'm sure it happens more than we know.
Oh, that's for sure. And of course it does happen more. And, another thing that, I think this will come out in another question perhaps that we answer, but like if you're getting bullied, talk to an adult. Yeah. Maybe it's your parent, maybe it's another adult, if they don't help you, talk to another one. Again, because all of the adults in our life are all the kids who you have in high school. You know what I mean? Like meeting some of them are great, some of them are not so great, And so if you don't get help from one person, and if you get help from someone says, just stand up for yourself, go talk to someone else. If you say someone like, oh, that they're just teasing, go talk to someone else. You know what I mean? Because those are not helpful things. For all the adults who are listening, do not say those kinds of things to someone who's getting bullied. Yeah. Stand up for yourself. Tell them how you feel. That'll make them stop. No. That's not true.
Yeah. Okay. I do want to return to this a little bit later, and maybe we can go a little bit more in depth.
I think we will.
So my next question then is, why do people bully others? And to add on to that a little bit, what role do relationships play within the bullying?
The most part, I think, research has shown that there's all kinds of reasons why kids, there's all kinds of relationships that kids, all kinds of different conflicts. But bullying is different. As we've said, it's purposeful, it's repeated. It's not just kind of regular conflict that can happen between friends or so, right? That's the one thing. But you'll see kids who blame others, who are unwilling to accept responsibility for themselves. These are the things I think I would say to a parent who is saying, my kid doesn't bully. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, well, how do you think your kid, do they just blame others? Can they accept responsibility for their actions? How do you think, are they compassionate? Do they have empathy for others? Do they understand about others people's feelings are also important, not just their own or your own? Sometimes kids who've been bullied themselves, they bully others. Because I think one of the aspects that I haven't talked about yet, that we haven't talked about yet, is really bullying happens with a great imbalance of power. So that power, that imbalance, that power can look like power of lots of friends, power being really popular, power of being a physical stature, of being bigger or taller than someone else. That power that someone can have can come from many different ways. I mean, again, popularity plays a big part. Being in a certain social group, where you live, there's all kinds of ways that kids bully or feel more power than others in certain ways. Yeah. But so when we're talking about who bullies, like who are the kids who bully, sometimes the kid who's bullied themselves will try and bully someone else to, again, if they're feeling that they have no power in this other situation, they may try and have power in another situation by bullying someone who's even weaker than them, kind of thing. So that's really sad, but it does happen. Someone who has underdeveloped social skills, someone who doesn't deal with frustration or easily, there's a lot of reasons why some people bully. It's not always easy to see, why someone bullies. And on some level, I don't know that it's that important. I really want to, I don't know. Of course it's important to know why people bully, but I think we can get caught up in that a lot, and that really isn't going to stop bullying, just, knowing that. But I understand. And certainly when we're talking about, the notion of a parent who you might be talking to a parent like, hey, your child has been bullying someone at school. Maybe this is a principal, maybe this is a teacher, maybe it's another parent who's calling one parent saying, I think your child is bullying my child, or, I think your child is bullying someone at school. It is important for parents to maybe see some of those things in their child, So that's important. One of the reasons why it's important to look at that. But also, you have, when we think of why do some people bully, when we have parents who say bullying is just part of normal growing up. Well, then that's allowing their kid to bully. You know what I mean? That's saying that there's no problem there. That is absolutely not a normal part of growing up. Yeah. I suspect that you were probably not a bully. I was not a bully. I really wasn't someone who got bullied either. I think there's only one kid in sixth grade who bullied me a little bit, but I wasn't a really popular kid, but I wasn't someone who got bullied either. You know what I mean? But that's not, most kids do not bully other kids. That is not a normal part of growing up. Yeah. And so if you're a parent who thinks that, or an adult who thinks that, then you're allowing that to happen. But so if we can see that, for someone who has these traits, who maybe, can't take responsibility, lacks empathy, doesn't know how to, gets frustrated, maybe social skills, they're awkward, they don't know how to talk about their feelings, those are things. But I think one of the best things about recognizing what are the traits for someone who bullies is that all of those behaviors can be unlearned. Absolutely. A kid is not a bully. There's a kid who's dealing with something and they bully because they're also dealing with something. Yeah. And it might be, it's not it doesn't mean they have an awful home, or it doesn't mean that they're not smart, or, anything. It's just they're looking for that control. They're looking for power in their lives in some way that they're feeling they're lacking it, and they're acting out because of it. But all of those, what we think are they are learned behaviors. If I don't know how to talk about my feelings, then I'm just gonna push people. I'm gonna say bad things about them. So everything that is learned about how to be a bully, you can unlearn. You can learn better traits and better activities. So that's the exciting part of it to me.
Yeah, I think that is very exciting too, right? Because it's we all have the potential to change. We all have the potential to change how we interact with ourselves, but also how we interact with other people.
That's right. Absolutely. Right? Yeah.
And I know that you go into the schools and you talk about bullying, and you've been doing this for a long time. And so I'm wondering, from that experience, right, and just having this conversation so far, what are some ways that people unlearn and relearn new ways of interacting, new ways of being within themselves and with their peers?
I think it's great when schools really concentrate on how to deal with conflicts, teach kids how to deal with I know that I heard a parent recently who was saying, oh, my daughter's getting bullied, but it's really, I think her friends don't understand that she doesn't actually like the guy who she thinks he like, whatever. And with always that, I'm a little like, she says, oh, if they would just sit down and talk, I know they would come to a better understanding. And when we talk about that imbalance of power, there is no getting together and talking that's going to be okay. But I think if it really does grow out of a conflict, like, is it possible if they were once friends, they can get back there? But I think really of the years of looking at bullying, it is not helpful to encourage the two groups to just talk. That doesn't usually help. But that wasn't exactly what you asked. I think I went on a little tangent there.
But we can go off of that.
But yeah,
so
no.
What is helpful then?
Yeah, what is helpful? When we think that what I really want to say is bullying can absolutely be stopped. Yeah. So if we all in the school, because I think mostly what we're talking about is kids, right, at the moment, because bullies grow up and they can be bullies as adults too. We'll get to that in a minute, I think, because it's similar to what could happen in work, but, in the school. If everyone in the school had the expectation that we're not going to put up with any of that. Yeah. Now, that is important because some kid's going to come and tell an adult that this happened, right? So the adult has to have the mindset that bullying's not part of normal life. Mm-hmm. It's not going to work if I just say apologize to the other kid and that just makes it okay. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's lots of ways like that it doesn't help. But the other problem is bullying doesn't happen in front of the teachers.
That's true.
It happens in the hallways when the one teacher is way in the front and you've got the kids in the back who are and then she turns around and you're like, you know what I mean? The hands go up. I didn't do anything, So it is important that everyone in the school, and I mean everyone, from the janitor, from the bus driver, to the teacher, to the principal, has this expectation that we're all going to be kind. Yeah. We're all going to be accountable. We're all going to be respectful, and we're not going to put up with kids who are not, right? Yeah. And we're going to try and get them help. Remember, because they can be unlearned. Yes. So we just have to help them. We don't have to shun them. We don't have to, kick them out of school for a number of days. That's not really going to help the situation. Mm-hmm. We have to try and help them and get them to unlearn those bad behaviors. Yeah. But the other thing is how to stop it is all the rest of the kids, like a big part. And I think it's a really, I admit that it's kind of a higher level thing to think about when we talk about bullying. But I often show this this continuum of there's a kid who bullies over here, and then it's their best friend, who may not be doing the bullying. Maybe they're doing the bullying right along with the kid, but then there's some part of their group that isn't doing the bullying, but they're still part of the group, but they're just kind of being quiet, but they want to be in the group, so they're certainly not going to say anything against it, Mm-hmm. And then you've got the people who are watching the bullying happen that maybe they're really laughing at whatever they said. Then you've got some other kids there who are also just oh boy, I don't think this is funny at all, but I'm not about to stand up and say something to anyone. I'm not going to stop that. You know what I mean? Because then they're going to start bullying me, So then you've got the kids who just walk away. I can't even watch this. I don't want to watch this. Yeah. But those kids just walk away and do something else. They don't go tell teacher. Then you've got someone who goes tells a teacher. You've got someone who goes and stands next to the kid who's getting bullied. You know what I mean? And more kids who stand next to that kid who gets bullied, the kid's not going to get bullied anymore. Yeah. And we'll get to that dynamic in a second. But what I want to say when I'm talking to a class, I want to say, if you can just find it in yourself to go one step farther, mm-hmm. One step closer to help the kid who's getting bullied. That's what we all need to do.
Yeah.
If we can, each one of us can commit to taking one step closer to being the person who goes and gets the teacher, or is willing to go and just spend time with the kid who's getting bullied, that will help so much.
Yeah.
Because when it comes right down to it, the way to stop bullying is mostly to hold the kid who's doing the bully accountable.
Yeah.
And they're not really going to listen to the teacher. They're going to listen to their friends. So, and again, we have to get their friends willing to, if they can talk to their friend, like, come on, let's leave them alone. You know what I mean? Like, if they can see that they've got power in their friend group without hurting someone, you know, I mean, that they're still have friends, that they're still popular maybe, or, you know, that kind of thing, then, you know, then that's the win. I mean, they're not going to listen to their parents. They're not going to listen to a teacher, you know, because they're also going to say, I didn't do it. You know, I mean, show me you weren't there. You know what I mean? Like, you know, so it has to be like us. I mean, it has to be just the normal people that are around that are not going to laugh, because if no one's laughing, then maybe they won't do it anymore because they're doing it to get that laugh. You know what I mean? If they're trying to humiliate someone, they want other people to egg them on as well, you know? So it's always just talking, like we talk about, we want kids to be bystanders. Now the language is upstanders. Like, you know, we want everyone who's seeing bullying. We know that bullying is happening. So all of us have to be willing to at least take one step closer to that action part, I think. And maybe we're not there yet. You know, I mean, that's why I'm saying it's okay if you're only moving to like just the kid who watches it but doesn't laugh. That's even better than the kid who laughs. You know what I mean? I'm always just trying to get kids to think, how can you change your own behavior just a little bit each time? Because some kids are never going to be the kid who's going to stand up for someone else or so. Yeah. But what I was really getting, I mean, there's a lot there, right? But it's the kid who gets bullied. It's not their responsibility to stop the bullying. They can't necessarily even stop the bullying because of that imbalance of power. They do not have the power to stop the bullying, right? But when, you know, there's a book that I read with like the kindergartners or the first graders that, I can't even remember the name of the book right now. But it's a new girl who moves to town, you know what I mean? And the first day, this boy bullies her, you know, all the time. Yeah. And oh, you're new, and why are you here? And you know what I mean? Like all this stuff. And there's one girl in the midst of like three friends who are always like walk home together. And the new girl is like walking a little ahead of them, and she's all like hunched over and, you know, like bummed that she got bullied all day, you know? And the one girl, like the other two kids, like they don't care. They don't see it. But this one girl is just, you can tell she just has a heart for like, oh, I want to try and help her. I want to try and help her. So she doesn't, I think way towards the end, she like runs ahead and like, you know, walks with the girl, you know, but then she says, can I call you later on? And the next morning she goes to the girl's house, and I'll walk to school with you. And then because she walked to school with her, here, I'm getting tearing up. It's so pathetic. But then her two other friends said, okay, I'll walk to school with her. And then like the whole rest of the kids were like, well, I like Susan, and Susan's walking with Tammy. You know what I mean? Like it just went on. And then you see like the kid who's the bully is like around this whole crowd of people who were like with the girl who he was going to bully. And he's like, I can't bully her now. Like, look at all those kids around her. You know what I mean? Like, and so it just, it is us who are going to stop the bullying. It's not when it comes right down to it, it's each one of us who can stop the bullying, both in holding the person accountable, but also helping the kid who's getting bullied. If they're not alone anymore, you know, then the kid who bullies doesn't really have the power anymore if there's lots of people with the kid who's getting bullied.
So
Sorry for getting
nothing to be sorry about. But what I'm hearing, right, is that it's not just the individual, but it takes the community.
It takes the whole community.
It takes
really
the entire
does.
community being kind, being accountable, being respectful, and asking for help. and supporting that person that needs help as well,
Yeah.
right? And it's really like almost like building a culture around it,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
A culture of accountability,
Yeah.
of kindness, of respect, all these things. And, you know, you talked about taking one step forward at a time.
Yeah.
And if all of us take one step forward, that's going to ripple out.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And all of those little steps will become something
Right.
bigger.
And if I realize that I'm not alone in, you know, the who left or something, like just think if the kid is like, if there's this huge circle and everyone's laughing, you know, because maybe they're actually fighting in the middle of the circle, maybe they're just making fun of someone and everyone's watching it. And if everyone just disappeared, like literally, like they're not even doing anything as far as like, stop that, or they're not necessarily even walking to the kid who's getting bullied, but if they all just left, what a powerful message that would be.
Yeah, because I think, you know, with bullying, one thing is like there can probably be a sense of isolation.
Absolutely.
Right? Isolation and alienation, and just being able to change that narrative a little bit. And we do that through action.
Yeah.
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 So I think that's a good segue into our next question. And I think we've touched on it a little bit, but I want to expand on it more. And the question is, how do you think bullying affects individuals and the wider community?
Yeah. You know what, I think the first thing I want to say, I mean, one, there's so many ways that it affects the whole community. That is for sure. It really does. But, you know, when we talked a little bit about, who is the kid who bullies, you know, when I talked about that there's someone who blames others and doesn't take responsibility for their own actions, like the ones. I want to say, think about what you want for your community. If you want a healthy community, is a healthy community full of people who blame others and don't take responsibility for their own actions? Do you want a community of people who lack empathy for all the other community members? Do you want a community of people who don't have good social skills? Or lastly, something we really struggle with here, right? Do we want a community full of people who are depressed? And what do we see that sometimes the depression leads to, but suicide, right? So all those things that we talked about, who bullies, right? We're talking about people, those people. And again, if they're growing up and nothing's changed in their behavior, no one's held them accountable, no one's talked to them, gotten them help, right? To have better social skills, or to how to recognize their feelings and how to talk about their feelings instead of getting angry at people. If we haven't stopped that, if we haven't intervened, right, then we have a community full of unhealthy and aggressive people. Like that's certainly not good for our community. So, you know, so that idea of bullying absolutely affects communities. It also affects communities because I think what is possibly surprising, I know the first time I ever saw this, I was really like, really? That the kid who does the bullying often has really long-lasting effects in their life. And like if those behaviors haven't changed, then what does someone who doesn't have good social skills, who doesn't take responsibility for themselves and blame others, or doesn't see empathy for other people in their community, they're likely going to run into maybe they're going to steal something. Maybe they're going to get in a fight, even as an adult. So like, you know, you throw a punch at someone in high school and you might get suspended a day, but you do that once you're over 18 and you get arrested. Like that's, you know what I mean? So the idea of, it's not very hard to see that a kid who bullies in elementary school and in middle school and in high school is likely going to have problems with the law when they get older, because they haven't really figured out how to recognize their own feelings and their own actions. And so, you know, we're also, even if they're not, you know, maybe they've skated by again their whole life, like they've never actually get in trouble, no one's held them accountable, and they know enough not to throw a punch at someone, you know, but they're just making fun of people and humiliating them. They grow up and they're in our workplaces too. So, you know, then you have, you know, a bullying that happens at work then too. So it is, and I think the worst possibility, you know, is a kid who bullies is likely going to become abusive in the relationship that they have. And then that's a part of my life work at AWIC, Arctic Women in Crisis, right?
Yeah.
That is a whole nother part, you know what I mean? That leads to really what I have to deal with every day, you know what I mean, in the shelter and who I'm working with. So when we talk about bullying, like trying to end bullying behavior, you know, it's knowing that these kids grow up and what, you know what I mean, what can happen when they grow up as well. So it's really important there. But the other thing when we want to think of the effects of bullying on the wider community, right, is that then let's look at the kids who were getting bullied. They also can have some long-lasting effects as well. We already said this is really awful. They can become bullies themselves, because if they got bullied or they get bullied on a regular basis, if they can find someone smaller and you know, less power than them, then even they might want to try and bump up their power by bullying someone else. And also, if they've never learned how to have value for themselves and how to be confident in their own selves, then they're likely also to grow up and put up with abusive behavior in that adult relationship. So, we're gonna see that is a huge effect on our community.
Yeah.
Kids, I mean, both ways. The kids who get bullied and the kids who bully them, you know, are the bullies. Both of them will still grow up in our communities, and they will affect the larger community as a whole. And also, but it's I think I don't know if it gotten out there, so I'm not sure if this fits in there exactly, but I want to say that for the kid who's getting bullied, I don't tell them to stand up for themselves. Don't tell them that if they get bullied, you know, if they did this or if they didn't talk about this thing that they like in their life, they wouldn't, you know what I mean? Like, it's not their responsibility to end it. Yeah. But what I can say is we absolutely see that kids who are confident in themselves and feel good about themselves, they're usually not the ones who get bullied. Or even if they get bullied, you know, we want to say like, oh, just pretend it doesn't, like, you know, act like it doesn't do anything to you. That's also really minimizing, you know, I mean, the effect that it can have on you. You know, you don't want to hear that, like it doesn't, you know, but the reality is that if you do feel really good about yourself and you feel confident of that, then you kind of don't care if someone else is. So, but I'm not talking about faking it. I'm talking about, again, if they have friends, if they have people in their life that are telling them, you are smart, you're good, you're valued, like you have all kinds of great, you know, I mean, like I love you, I respect you for who you are as a person, like it's easier for them not to have those effects of, you know, those long-lasting effects. It doesn't necessarily mean the bullying's going to stop, but we really want to build up the kids who are, I mean, we want to help both the kids. You know what I mean? Like, we want to help both of them, but in slightly different ways, I guess. Yeah.
And, you know, what I'm hearing in a lot of this is like, it's really important to have a strong sense of self, right?
Absolutely.
Sense of self-value, a sense of self-love, but that can't happen without support.
Yeah.
Right? That can't happen without support from your family, your friends, your teachers, your peers, whoever it is around your circle. Like, you can't build up that sense of support. I mean, you can't build up that sense of self without that outside support. Yeah. And it does sound like, right, that, you know, I think in behavioral health, one thing that is very apparent is that the experiences that you have as kids can really affect you and follow you throughout your life. Absolutely. If you do not if you don't take the time to like examine them, to look at them, to understand them, right? And I just want to reflect back on the thing that you said earlier, that these behaviors, these experiences, they can be unlearned. Yeah. You can learn new ways of relating to yourself, and you can learn new ways of relating to other people around you. You can learn how to manage conflict. And, you know, conflict is not something that you just have with other people. It's also something you have with yourself as well.
Right.
And so I think all of those things are really, really important. And, you know, that kind of leads into my next question. You know, we talked a lot about how bullying how bullying just from this one dynamic, right, can
Right.
ripple out and touch the community.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I guess my next question to you would be, do you think that bullying is an issue in our communities?
Absolutely, it is. I think what is sad though is that, again, I think I referenced this a little bit before, but there are people in this community who do think bullying is just part of growing up, and bullying is just teasing, right? So if it's them, like we want to even be talking about each other as, as adults. I mean, trying to change some of those beliefs that we have, because it is a big part it is, I think, a really bad thing in our community. I was out in, I don't know what village, and that doesn't matter. It's probably better if I don't say, right? But I was in a village, I really was witnessing junior high kids, a boy really, really picking on this girl all through lunch, right? I really felt like he was really bullying her all through lunch. And I mentioned that to the principal, and he said, yeah, what's fascinating is if you met both of their parents, you would see that they've been bullying each other for years and years and years, those two kids' parents. And I was like, oh my goodness. I mean, yeah, like talk about, again, kids who are in school who are bullying each other grow up to be, and they have their own kids, and you know what I mean? Like, and it's just, yeah. But I mean, but all those behaviors can be stopped. Yes. So not only is it a problem in our community, but if you have an adult say, well, I lived through it, you know what I mean? Like, I got bullied, who cares? You know what I mean? Yeah. Again, for a child who is not able to let it roll off their back, right? Who maybe doesn't have that strong sense of self because no one's really told them that they're a valuable person, in their life. I was a regular classroom teacher for a while. I mean, that's what I went to college for. And I realized, like, I could tell a child every day of school that you are important and you're valued and you can do things in life. And that paled in comparison, like the 6 hours of school every day, the 7 hours of school every day, like every day, 5 days a week, like it's barely even, I'm 180 days a year. Like that's not even, it's barely half a year. You know what I mean? And so if at home, their parents are saying you're a worthless piece of, whatever at home, and they're not being cared for or encouraged or read to, or, you know what I mean, valued in any way. I value teachers who can really sustain and try and help each kid, but I was like, I want to try and do something on the other side. You know what I mean? Like I want to help parents. I want to help adults realize, and I want to help kids learn this from the get-go. You know what I mean? How to recognize their feelings and deal with their feelings. And you know what I mean? And so, I mean, that's a change. I met just something I saw that was really frustrating to me. You know what I mean? That I could try and help these kids, and that was still paled in comparison to what the kids always want the love and respect from their home. And when they don't have that, that's really sad. Yeah,
I agree with that completely. Okay, so I know we've been kind of like touching on this throughout our conversation, but the next question that I have is, what steps can individuals take to prevent bullying, and what do you think schools or workplaces can do to prevent bullying from happening?
Yeah, I think definitely, again, like don't make or don't take any of the excuses for bullying that we see. Like, right? It's not growing up. It's not part of growing up. It's not just teasing. It's not whatever. So don't make those excuses yourself. Don't take those excuses from someone else. It is, we want to make sure that we do, one, I think the biggest thing we can think of is I don't know, what's the word? I know there's a word here that I wanted to teach by example, right? I know I was like, what's that word I want to say? Teach by example. So we have to be that as adults. Like we have to learn. We have to teach our kids empathy. We have to teach our kids kindness, like how it feels good to help other people, and how, you get the joy of watching someone else be helped and be thankful for that help, right? So I mean, we want that in our schools. We want that as parents. We want that even as work, right? I think it's hard when we think of how do we prevent it. But if we do have that expectation of a culture, a whole culture in our community, even culture at work, you know what I mean? I think there's definitely been work that I've interviewed people for before and been like, I really want to work there. You know what I mean? Like, I recognize that has a good culture of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, of a great place to work,
Yeah.
And that is a powerful thing. You know what I mean? So when your work holds people accountable and just says, no, we're going to be a positive place to work. We want people to be happy to work here. You know what I mean? That's really powerful. I mean, that's really strong. That is, I think, how you prevent it when you want to say, like, we're so positive here. We're not going to put up with any, what I mean? We're not going to put up with people making fun of other people. We're not going to put up with that. So I think that's even hard then for when the person who wants to bully, again, because all the people around them are not supporting them in that bullying. Yeah. So that's, I guess, how you prevent it. But I think more preventing is holding someone accountable when they do it. But I think if you can create such a culture of that, I think that's hard. I think maybe it's, I think when you're talking about a whole community, because there's still so many parents who believe I put up with it, you can too. Yeah. It's part of growing up. It's, just be stronger. Don't, you know what I mean? Like, don't be wussy. Don't be, you know what I mean? Like that's why I want to say, like, talk to another adult. If you don't get what you need from one adult, like, find another adult to talk to, because you do have adults who are going to say all those things of, like, well, if you didn't do that, you wouldn't get made fun of. You know what I mean? Like, it's so I think we can create those cultures of really great behaviors in smaller groups. I think it's harder to do it as a whole, but I hope the more we can convince people to really not put up with bullying. Yeah. I mean, it's okay. So when I worked at AWICS the first time, I would go out to schools once or twice a year, like to all the villages, once or twice a year I'd be out there, and I'd go in there and that kid would run out to me, oh, you're the bully lady. And I was like, I hate that, because it sounds like I'm the one bullying, but, like, yes, I'm the one who comes to your classroom and talks about bullying all the time, but it's so not in me to not be kind. I mean, I think, we have to realize there's a difference between being nice and being kind. I mean, I think lots of times we're nice when we have to be, but truly being kind is looking out for people and, just really always wanting good for other people. And I'm not nice in, every single second of every day, but I really do try to be kind. And it is hard for me to see bullying happening. It's hard for me to see abuse happening. So I feel somehow like, how can I convince people not to? I mean, like, I don't know how can they not, like, how can they put up with it? You know what I mean? That's hard for me to kind of understand that sometimes. But
I think as you were saying, really just one step at a time.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And building those smaller communities where that behavior of kindness and accountability and responsibility is there. And we talked about earlier, it will ripple out.
Oh, it will. And there's absolutely, I think if you're traveling around the North Slope, you're traveling within Alaska, you're traveling around the world or in the country, right? There's some towns that are really known for being friendly and being, you know what I mean? And other ones you say, like, oh, in New York City, everyone just walks with their head down, like, too many people, they don't want to get involved in other people. You know what I mean? Like, so there are definitely whole towns or cities that have more of a friendly, you know what I mean, or accepting culture, and some that don't, you know what I mean? And it's not about like nationalities or or, you know, where someone was born or how, you know, where they lived before. So it's really the expectation of a town that just kind of says, you know, we look out for each other, you know what I mean? And I think Borough, it's hard for me not to say Borough, Utiavik is, I think Utiavik is fantastic for looking out for tons of people. We, you know, people get a whale, the whale team, they anyone from town, you know what I mean, can go and say, you know, they give. It's a beautiful tradition. It's wonderful. And I just wish maybe it showed in some of the interpersonal ways that we interact with each other a little more sometimes too. Yeah.
Okay, well, I just have 2 more questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go for it.
So my next question is, what should someone do if they know someone who's getting bullied or is getting bullied themselves?
And that I want to say is just keep talking to other people. Like, again, if you talk to someone, and I mean, if you're someone who's trying to tell someone about a friend getting bullied, if someone says stop being a tattletale, then go find a different adult, right? Then go find a different teacher. Go find someone else in the school who will not say that to you and will trust that you are trying to look out for someone else. And if you are someone who is getting bullied, talk to someone. I mean, I just cannot stress this enough, especially when we're talking about the online kind of thing, again, that is so hidden from everyone else that this is happening. You know, I mean, everyone in the school may know it because they're seeing the post, but like in your own home, maybe they have no idea that that's happening, you know? And I think how many times do parents realize that their child committed suicide, and when they find out, you know, all that they were dealing with, they're just like, if they had just talked to me, you know what I mean? Like, we could have tried to problem solve this. And part of that is, again, if you're getting bullied, I want you to get help. Like, I want you to get help because, again, that feeling of being secure in yourself is the way that is going to keep you out of the bad spiral going down, right? So if that means talking to me as a parent, talking to your sisters and brothers, maybe they can get you to talk to someone else, you know what I mean? Like, anything that can help you start to feel better about yourself, to start feeling comfortable with yourself and confident in yourself, you know, that is so important. So whether it be, you know, whether you know someone who's getting bullied or you're getting bullied yourself, keep talking to someone else until you find the person who's going to help you.
I think that's a really great piece of advice. Right? Like, to keep going, because I think there's always it might be hard to find that person initially,
absolutely.
but there's going to be someone who wants to help.
Right. There is, absolutely. And again, even it pains me that some teachers don't know as much about bullying as I want them to have, right? I mean, but again, teachers are a part of our community, and not everyone in the community is the healthiest person either. You know what I mean? So it's like, find another teacher, and you know what I mean? Keep talking to someone else until they get help for you. And I think that is, and I mean, that is so important. I also want to see it from the kid who is doing the bullying. Like, we can't forget them either. I mean, they both need help, right? So, you know, it's that I think, unfortunately, is if you've got parents who are not willing to see that their kid can be someone who is actually hurting someone else or bullying someone else, then it's really hard to reach that child. So I think I want to encourage us all in the schools, but in our own homes, have a sense of accountability, you know what I mean? Where we're all taking accountability for our actions, our words, and that, I think it's true on both sides, right? I want, like, again, keep talking to someone else until they get help. So I guess in that same way, if you're a kid who's bullying, then I hope, like, don't say, oh, someone else is taking care of it. If you have a heart for them too, then go talk to them yourself and try, you know, just keep going, keep trying to reach out to them as well. So. Yeah, both sides, I think.
Yeah,
I don't know.
both sides are important, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not a one-way street.
It's not
It's
a
a
one-way street.
relationship. It's
And all of it can be unlearned. I mean, right? We want the kid who gets bullied to learn to have confidence in themselves and to feel that love and support that's around them, or that should be around them, that could be around them, right? We also want to talk to, that same thing with the kid who's doing the bullying. We also want them to realize what they're doing and to talk to people and stuff. So yeah, it's there's nothing easy about this, though. I want to say, I mean, I think the easiest thing is really, how hard is it just to not be mean to other people? Like, it seems so simple, and yet it happens all the time. I'm asked to go talk to the to the basketball team, or go talk to this group because there's got bullying that's happening in between them. You know what I mean? And on some level, I'm just like, come on, you're all working on the same team, aren't you? But yeah. I also want to say that I want to put this out to every single person in our whole community. If you are not part of the solution, you are part of the problem. So recognize that bullying is a problem, and think to yourself, what's one thing I could do? You're not going to fix it completely on your own, right? But if you can talk to the kid who is doing the bullying, great. If you can talk to the kid who's getting bullied, great. If you can talk to your kid about how can you help the kid who's getting bullied, right? Are you willing to sit next to them in the cafeteria? It's a big step for some people. Like, I always sit with the same people. I don't want another person, you know what I mean? But any time that you can try and show that support, if as an adult, if you can help your children try and figure out, maybe you're not willing to walk next to them all the time. Maybe you're not willing to accept them into your group, right? But if you can, what is one thing you can do?
Yeah.
One thing. That's a one thing.
One thing, right? That's
one
very
thing you can
achievable,
change.
very attainable for all of us.
For all of us, absolutely.
Okay, so my next and final question, I don't know if it's the same question that I just asked, but it's okay, so my next question is, if there's one thing that you could say to someone who's getting bullied, what would that be? I
want you to feel confident in yourself. So if I'm going to tell you that you do not deserve that. I want them to hear that they do not deserve to be bullied. I want them to hear that they are important and valued, and the more I can get that person who's being bullied to feel that and to understand that, then the less likely they're going to hurt themselves or hurt others one day because of it.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Cheryl. That was very insightful. We learned a lot in this conversation today, and I just want to say thank you for sharing your time with us.
You're welcome. I love talking about this because I'm passionate about trying to help our community be as healthy as we can be. So thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl, for sharing those insights. If you or someone you know is being bullied, please speak up. By being kind and accountable, we each play our part in building a culture where we all feel safe to be ourselves. For this week's wellness practice, we'll be focusing on kindness. Kindness and niceness might seem really similar on the surface. They both involve treating people well, but there's a key difference in where they come from. Kindness usually comes from a genuine place. It's driven by empathy, care, and a real desire to help or make a positive impact. It's more heartfelt and often creates deeper, more meaningful connections. Niceness, on the other hand, can sometimes be more about keeping things polite or going along with what's socially accepted. It's not necessarily fake, but it doesn't always come from the same depth or authenticity as kindness. When you're being kind, you might do something uncomfortable, like set a boundary or have a tough conversation because you care. But being nice might mean avoiding that discomfort just to keep things smooth, even if something important gets left unsaid. So while both are valuable in their own ways, kindness tends to leave a bigger, more lasting impact. It's not just about being pleasant, it's about genuine care and empathy. For today's practice, we'll start off by thinking of someone that you love and care about, someone that you're really grateful to have in your life. Write a letter to them, letting them know why and what you appreciate about them. Let them know why you are grateful for them and show them some support in an area of life they may need encouragement. If you'd like to take it a step further, commit to doing one act of kindness this week, whether it's for a friend, family member, coworker, or even a stranger. What can you do to help support someone from a genuine place of care and empathy without expecting anything in return? If there's anything from this episode that you'd like to learn more about, or if you have any physical, mental, or emotional health related questions that you'd like answered on the show, please reach out to our team by email at nsbhealthpreventionbrw@north-slope.org. That's nsbhealthpreventionbrw@north-slope.org, or by phone at 907-855-8501. Please note that we record our episodes in advance, so the answer to your question will air a couple of weeks later. Now on to some announcements. The prevention team would like to invite you to join our Winter Wellness Challenge, 30 miles a month. This initiative is designed to help you stay moving and motivated throughout the long, dark winter days with one monthly challenge and weekly challenges to keep you going. You'll log 30 miles a month and get it signed off by a partner for 5 entries in our monthly prize raffle. By completing one weekly challenge, you'll get 1 entry. And by completing every weekly challenge throughout the month, you'll get 3 extra entries. If you'd like to participate, please email us at nsbhealthpreventionbrw@north-slope.org and we'll send you a log. Thank you so much for tuning into our show. We hope you found it insightful and learned something that can help you on your own health and wellness journey. If you'd like to catch the replay of this episode or any of our previous episodes, you can visit the North Slope Borough Health and Social Services YouTube page. Next week, we continue our conversation with Cheryl and highlight Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Until next time, Koy Nakpak.